Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel World. We're looking at young carers today. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Let's jump in. It's estimated within the UK that there may be as many as 700,000 young carers. Being a young carer is someone that's under the age of 17. They might be helping a family member who is ill, helping a brother or sister who is disabled. They might be unfortunately helping someone who's got an addiction to potentially something like drugs and alcohol. Being a young carer doesn't mean that someone may be devoting hours and hours and hours every single day. It may mean they just give an hour a day or an hour a week to help with household chores, look after the brother or sister, help the grandma, the grandparent. But on the flip side, it could mean they're devoting over 4 hours a week or 4 hours a day to help someone within their family. They may not even realise that they're a young carer because they've been born into that situation. They might realise later in life, but for the time being, they might just think that's normal and a part of life. Because it's someone young under the age of 18, they may believe that this is a part of life. They may believe that every child does this, and because of this, they may not reach out for help. It's estimated that 53% of young carers do not have any involvement from any sort of healthcare providers or any sort of help from any other carers or outside agencies. And because of this, and because of their believing that that is what every young child is meant to be doing, that it's very, very difficult to track how many young carers there are. One source predicts that there are 166,000 children or young carers within the UK, and another source from the BBC predicts that there are 700,000, and other sources have predicted in between this number. So it's very difficult to track how many actual young carers there are. So today I met with Ella via Zoom call and interviewed her about young carers. Ella is a support worker for young carers, and she's helped run a support group for these carers. She provides the young carers with a safe space to make friends and to get away from everything. Ella said that some children come to the sessions or young carers to speak about caring at home, and she says the majority of them do not want to speak about this. Let's dive into the interview and see what Ella said. Hi, I'm Ben. I'm just interviewing Ella today, just about young carers and the hidden world within the UK. Do you want to introduce yourself, Ella?
Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm a youth support worker.
So what is a young carer within the UK?
So, a young carer is a person under the age of 18 who cares for either a ill parent, sibling. They don't have to be related to them, but they care for someone and they don't get paid for it.
The older population that people care for, or do they care for anyone else?
No, it can be anyone. It can be really young children, for like siblings or their parents, and it can be for a range of things like mental health or physical disabilities.
Okay. So, with regards to mental health, what sort of things do they support them with?
So for parents who have depression or something, the young people may go and get medication, help out with mindfulness tasks, or just support them if they need help doing anything. So yeah, they do a lot of things really.
Oh, great stuff. There's 166,000 carers within the 106 between 166 and 700,000 young carers in the UK. Why do you think this is?
I think not a lot of people will know that they're a young carer. They might not, realise what they're doing is actually care work because they're just so used to it. So that way they might not actually report that they're a young carer, which is why I think the number is so broad, from a really low number to quite a high one. So yeah.
There's no way of tracking it. Is there?
there's nothing to claim. There's no benefits or anything for the young carers. There's no way of tracking it. So that's why we generally have literally no idea how many young carers there are, because there isn't a way of recording it, which is a... Go on, sorry.
Sorry, I think in the census they do ask about things like that, but obviously, like I said, like not a lot of people will know that they're a young carer because it's just the norm to them. So we might be seeing that there's a lot more that we don't know about, which is why a lot of the figures are estimated and not 100% true.
Yeah, it's something when you're young, isn't it, that you grow up and you believe everything that your parents tell you is true, and then you also grow up being a young carer and being asked to do these tasks, but not really knowing that that's what other children do not do.
Yeah, that's completely it. They just might not even realise that, you know, it's out of the norm what they're doing.
Yeah, it is interesting. Why do you think when the government spends 33p out of every £1 of the GDP on healthcare, that this issue is missed?
I read somewhere that the unpaid carers, not just young carers, adult carers as well, save the government like 132 billion or something really ridiculous a year, because they don't get, you know, a full pay out of it. They can get like a carer's allowance and things, but it's very low amounts, and I think it's estimated about £19,000 per carer a year, which is just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount. And
it's not even a lot of money, is it?
Yeah, no, I know, but it's like you think like these people are doing this unpaid. They don't get paid for that, and they're saving the government £19,000 a year on their own. Like, it's just ridiculous. I just think, like I said before, where it's not tracked properly, it's hard to then support all of them. If we don't know they exist, how do we support them?
Yeah, I'd definitely agree with that. So my next question is, why do 27% of young carers miss school?
So there can be all sorts of reasons. Being late for helping out and having to do things that other normal children wouldn't have to do, like other children. And yeah, they might be really stressed and down and sad about things. They might not want to go in. They could have to go to doctor's appointments or hospital appointments. It can be a range of things, really. There's all sorts of reasons. A big one would be that they're stressed and they just can't handle it. A lot of them get bullied. So like children who aren't carers may treat them as an outcast, kind of.
Do you think that missing 27% of school affects their education?
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure that young carers are less likely to do as well in school as people who aren't carers. I think they miss out on a lot, and a lot of schools aren't really aware of their young carers in the school, so they might not actually understand and might not be as lenient towards, you know, late work or coming in late, work that's not as good as they can do, kind of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a tough one.
It's I've read that that it's now 1/5 higher than the previous decade for young carers. So it's a new issue that the schools are not really addressing. Just like mental health is sort of new it's actually been recognised probably within the last 10 years. That people are actually taking it seriously and people are campaigning. So young carers is probably another one of them things that will start to be addressed in the next few years, where people start to recognise it, because it is on the rise and it is increasing, but it's not something that we're aware of fully yet, just like mental health wasn't 20 years ago. That's a new thing that come out after all the after everyone's taken their own lives. You know, that there's such a high proportion of young men taking their own lives, that then men started to come out and campaign, and then there was sort of campaigns coming out against it. So I imagine that will be the same with young carers when people speak about it. So which is what this video was trying to do ultimately. Why do you think young carers 1/3 of young carers under the age of 17 have mental health issues.
I think their caring role can be really detrimental to their mental health. It can cause stress, anxiety, depression, all sorts of things really. You've got some that are really predisposed to it. If family members already have mental health conditions, you know, that can be a factor in it. Missing school, missing out on spending time with their peers, not doing as well as they could do in school, or feeling like they're being held back from having a childhood because of their caring role, and just not having any time for themselves other than when they're doing their caring role. They can't do anything else other than that. Yeah, I think that can really affect a person's mental health.
It's really difficult to get support for mental health issues as both an adult and a child through the NHS. I think the current waiting time for adults to get counselling or psychotherapy on the NHS is about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So with children, you know, they've first got to recognise that the issue exists, that they, you know, the reason they always feel sad is because they've got depression, and then when they actually realise that it exists, they're going to have to go and get help for it. So that's probably a reason. You know, they just can't address it. They don't understand why they feel like they do. And by the time they do realise that they've got depression, they've got anxiety, that's probably why one of the reasons is it's 1 in 3. What do you think we can do to better support them?
I think a main one is raising awareness in schools. That is such a big one. When we do like surveys in work with our young carers, a lot of them do say that their teachers don't even know they're a young carer, which I think is really shocking. Like, I think that should be as big of a thing as, like, if a child does have mental health issues, like, you should know about that as a teacher. They see these people, they see their teachers more often than they see their own home usually. Do you know what I mean? So it should be a recognised thing that they should have to put on there when they're signing up to schools and things like that. Obviously, again, you know, not everyone knows that they are a young carer, so it is a bit awkward in that sense. But for the ones that do know they're a young carer, I think teachers definitely should have, you know, they should know about that 100%. But yeah, raising awareness in schools, raising awareness in colleges and unis, just anything like that is a big thing that we can do.
It's something you never get asked in school, is it? It's something that you don't fill in a form on day one and go, are you a young carer? It's something that is never even asked. You know, there's been recent campaigns about bullying and things within schools. Mental health is now starting to be addressed in schools, but being a young carer is something that's never ever been addressed. And I imagine that, like you said, you know, until these campaigns, you know, start coming about, then, you know, it's not really going to be addressed. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. The next question is, are the government and ourselves doing enough to support the issue?
I think the amount of young carers that we know exist, I think we're doing as best as we can at the minute. I think the way we can do better is just by raising awareness. All of us, the government, normal people, youth support workers, teachers, everyone, I just think should be looking into it more, and to be able to raise awareness for it and not treat it as a kind of a taboo subject. I don't think people realise how bad it actually is, and how detrimental it can be for a young person. Like I said before, when we spoke before, so many just wouldn't even know what young carer is. Like, just people just anywhere. Like, you didn't know what one was. I didn't really know what a young carer was until I started working with young carers. So it's just something that I feel like we all need to sort of educate ourselves on.
Yeah, I'd agree there. It is something that I never even knew existed, and I definitely didn't realise that there were 700,000 young carers within the UK. That is it's a massive amount. A completely different question: are there any benefits or rewards to caring for someone as a young carer?
I think, you know, they probably feel a sense of they're doing good for their family members or whoever they're caring for. There's not really any benefits to it other than that they're helping out and they're, you know, making their family members' life as comfortable as possible. yeah, not I wouldn't say so. You know, some of them though, it's a very individual thing to certain young carers that some of them do really find their caring role really rewarding and things, and they do enjoy it. But others don't as much, and I think it's a very individual thing.
Three.
I think we've
Career.
it froze there a little bit.
Sorry, if they enjoy it, then it definitely might set them up for a career as a nurse or within healthcare. But if they don't enjoy it, then you know, it might severely impact their mental health.
Yeah.
Struggle.
See, we have a couple of young carers that once they turn 18, they aren't really coming to our youth club sessions anymore because we are for under 18s. But when they do turn 18, a lot of them do come back and volunteer with us, which is really nice. Yeah, that really is nice, and you know, they can see it from a kind of outside perspective then, and obviously they've already got this experience, they know what they're talking about, and they've like experienced it firsthand, but none of us have, so it's great.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is great.
Do you think there's a certain ethnicity group that are more prone to being a young carer? If so, who?
I wouldn't really know, if I'm honest. It's not something I've particularly looked into. I'm sure that it is just, you know, it's a worldwide, nationwide thing that affects everyone, regardless of your ethnicity or, you know, race, gender, anything like that. Maybe white British, because that is the majority in the UK. But I wouldn't have any other reason to suspect that. There's probably information on it online. It's not something that I've ever like looked into, if I'm honest.
It's really hard to find it out, isn't it? Because it, you know, we having no idea how many carers there are. You know, we don't know how many there are, so it's a pretty difficult thing to try and find out who is more prone. Do you think that? Why do you think that 2/3 of young carers have been bullied at school?
I think, you know, they miss out on a lot of social time with their peers and people their own age, which can sort of make them have this kind of like outcast kind of personality, or, you know, they're not treated as equal as their peers, and they don't get to go and do like extracurricular things with their friends, so they kind of don't make these friendships as much as other children their age do, which is such a shame. But I think that is probably a reason for it. You know, they might have mental health problems, and you know, children do pick up on people that are different, and if someone has got mental health problems, you know, they're going to notice that, and they're going to treat that person differently. Like, a lot of children are like that. Not that they're particularly being cruel or anything, you know, children typically do just pick up on people that are different to them.
Yeah, it's probably something they can't relate to, isn't it?
Yeah,
if someone's using the time to care for the parents and someone else is using the time to go and play football, then, you know, they're going to struggle to communicate and have things in common. It's completely two different ways of lives living. I also read that 2.6 million children in the UK live with someone who's classed as a hazardous alcohol user. It's around 1 in 5 children within the UK. Is this an issue that needs to be looked at more closely? Because it's not, they're not classed as young carers. You know, they're just in harm's way of alcohol.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So that would be an addiction, which is what we would see as a young carer. If a child is in a household with a person who has an addiction, that is classed as a young carer. Even if they don't typically do any caring role, an addiction is still a mental health problem. So it is, you know, they are a young carer. I think, again, with that, another thing is just awareness. I said before to you, alcohol abuse isn't as seen as bad as people who have drug abuse problems. So I think until we start treating alcohol abuse as an addiction, and, you know, not as just, you know, British culture or something, I think that is going to be a problem constantly. So yeah, we definitely would need to look into that. And I think actually making sure people realise having an alcohol addiction is a mental health problem. It's not just, you know, something that happens.
Yeah, I agree, because you're looking at alcohol's been around for sort of 1800 years, maybe more than that. Yeah. It's been around for a very long time, but it's still something that's, You know, to have 2.6 million children in harm's way of someone who's abusive after drinking alcohol is probably an issue that's being swept under the carpet that definitely needs to be looked at more closely.
Do you know what I think it is? I think society as a whole tends to demonise addicts. And I think that's why they don't get as much support as people with, you know, your typical like depression, mental health issues, or anxiety, things like that. They are seen, people obviously have a lot of sympathy towards them. We help them a lot. With addicts, society kind of banishes them and treats them as, you know, not as well as they should do. Like, it's the same thing. They're all mental health conditions, and we need to look at it like that. And I think until we do, it's always going to be an issue.
Yeah, it's just going back to the sort of you know, mental health being taken seriously. It's only been looked at for the last sort of 10 years. Prior to that, you know, you were classed as being, you know, if you looked at the 1980s, you went in an insane asylum, you know, 1970s. So, you know, and then given electric shock therapy and things like that. So, you know, coming to 2020, you know, I've only sort of seen campaigns be about since sort of 2010 about mental health, and I still don't see any campaigns for people who are suffering with addiction. You know, not in terms of alcohol addiction or anything like that. They're still pretty low key. You know, whereas you even sports players, you know, coming out speaking about mental health, they don't really speak about addictions that they've had with alcohol or things like that. You know, it's just, I've got a mental health issue.
Yeah.
And we still, you know, like you said, we still demonise people with addictions, which is bad.
And it's so wrong, isn't it? Like, you know, people have a very wide opinion that homeless people, if you give them money, they're going to go and spend it on drugs. Like, that's not the case. Do you know what I mean? We need to help these people. Like, we can't just put them all in one category and, you know, they're bad people because they've got an addiction. It's not like that at all. Like, it does upset me when people think of it like that. And I just think awareness is just the main thing, and sort of not treating addiction as such a taboo subject, you know, as mental health once was, and now it's becoming a lot more talked about, which is amazing. We need to carry on doing that for like the lesser known mental health problems, schizophrenia, for example, addiction.
Definitely.
For them, we need to talk about them as well as we do with depression, anxiety, things like that.
Yeah, because things like schizophrenia is still classed as you being mad, aren't they? They're not, you know, they're not classed as mental health issues like they should be. It's just, oh, look at him, he's weird, he's strange, you know, he's mad. But he's not. He's you know, he's mentally ill, and he's got something wrong with him.
I think society just treats them people differently. They get an idea in their head, and then that's all they can think about, which is so wrong, isn't it? It's awful.
Yeah, definitely. What, as you personally, what are the challenges that you face when trying to help young carers?
It's a difficult one because, like I said before, they are all very different. They all have very different personalities. Some of them really, really don't want to talk to you about things. They would much rather just come to the sessions and talk about anything other than how they're feeling. You know, what did you do at school today? Fine to talk about that. How are you feeling today? Don't want to talk about that. We do little booklets at the start of every session where they can fill in how they're feeling out of 10 based on their school life, their home life, and just how they're doing in general, which gives us a really good idea without actually having to communicate with them if they don't want to. We have a section in the booklet as well that they can tick or mark off if they would like a chat with one of us. Yeah, a lot of them don't want to. A lot of them just want to deal with it on their own, but we are there if they do need a chat. But some of them really do want to talk, and they do really want to discuss things, and they are really open about talking about it and raising awareness. A lot of our older young carers, they are very into raising awareness and getting involved in campaigns and things, which is amazing. It's so good to know. But yeah, the only thing that we would really have a problem with is if they don't want to talk to us. But that's fine. If they don't want to talk, they don't want to talk. If they just want to come and play some games, or even just sit in a corner and watch other people, like, as long as they're happy and content, that's all that matters to us. So yeah,
definitely. I'd agree there. I really like the booklet idea. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's good. They do sometimes, you know, they're a bit like, oh, a booklet again, and it's just we don't like treating it like a school kind of thing.
Yeah,
And we need to get that kind of, you know, data about them and how they're feeling, so we know how we can improve what we do. We always have like suggestion boxes for anything they would like to do. We have a big board in the main offices of all of the activities they want to do in the future and things. And trips away. So we're always listening to them and trying to do what's best for them.
With the trips away and things like that, how do you think that helps them as a young carer? How do you think that helps them improve?
Well, it helps them with lots of skills, communication skills, you know, getting out and about and doing things that they might not necessarily be able to do or think about doing. They get to spend time with other young carers and, you know, meet people who are like them and they can relate to. Like I said, people, their friends in school might not always be able to relate to them, which can make it quite difficult to maintain those friendships. So yeah, meeting other young carers is a really great way to help them, you know, socially and things as well. And it just gives them a break. It gives them a break from caring and, you know, having that time off that they can chill out a bit and have some fun.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it you know, if they're struggling with friendships in school because they can't relate to other people, gives them another opportunity then to not go, you know, they're never going to make friends. They can then make friends with people who are, you know, who are struggling with the same sort of things, you know, who might not be into sport, might not be into, you know, the PlayStation and things because they're spending all the time caring for someone. You know, they can meet someone the same, who, you know, who's going through the same thing and they're able to make friends with them then. And then I suppose they're less likely to get bullied then, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, they've always got someone that they can talk to about things then, because you know how it is. Sometimes kids don't want to talk to adults about how they're feeling. If they've got someone who knows what they're going through and they can understand it and they're the same kind of age as them and they're going through it as well, it will make it a lot easier to talk about things, I think. And I'm pleased to say that all of the young carers that I know, they all have really good friendships in the group. They all really get on well. None of them really don't have any friends, which is great, which is really good.
Oh, good. Do you think there's any strategies being looked at to support the children in the future or the young carers?
I wouldn't know if the government are doing anything about it, if I'm honest. We are a charity, my work, so we aren't really, you know, we're not a government funded kind of thing. But I think what we do is we try and raise awareness in schools and things like that. And I think, again, it's just raising awareness and making sure people know about them and, you know, make them visible. It's Carers Week at the minute, and the campaign at the minute is to make your voice heard, make carers' voices heard, and, you know, not let them get. Yeah, there's a campaign on at the minute, which is really good. There's a Young Carers Awareness Week as well in January or February. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I just think raising awareness is what we can do most of all.
Oh, brilliant. And just to summarise on everything we've said, what do you think the ultimate impact on the young carers and society is regarding being a young carer as an issue? You know, let me rephrase that. Just to summarise, what is the ultimate impact on the young carers and you know, looking at society regarding the sort of issue?
Obviously, they have a lot of mental health problems and things like that, so that is what will impact them. But yeah, it's just, I think it can affect them differently depending on who they are. Some of them really just take it in their stride and they're just fine with it. Obviously not fine with it, they probably feel a bit down about it sometimes, but you'd never know. But some of them are quite vocal about it and they will talk to you about it and how they feel. But yeah, it's just individual really. I think it impacts everyone differently.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Thanks very much for watching the video today. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like below. If you want to subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely amazing, please. And if you want to see more up and coming documentaries on everything from around the world, please click the bell icon for notifications on those up and coming documentaries. Thank you very much.